This is Polygon Issuance number 76, or known as the Day 1 review of the NWA meeting. This is Jeff Wilcox here, live from the hotel room, which I could actually show you this, but I'm not on Google Hangouts like I normally am. I'm doing audio again as I would be, so I'm trying to save as much of the bandwidth as I possibly can. But I am live here in the hotel room by myself, as Henry has left the room for quite a while. Right now I'm looking out the window. I might make a mention of this. I'm on the 11th floor of this hotel. I'm looking north. I have a view to the north and northeast, so I can see all the TV towers in Oklahoma City to my north, and a parking garage, which is the parking garage I should have parked my rental car in, but I couldn't, so I have to park in the parking garage that's to the west of the hotel, which I can't see. Anyway, I digress. Enough about talking about the view. But today was the first sessions, the broadcaster session, and note, I'm not a broadcaster, but I've done some broadcasting over the internet, so I claim to be one. So we snuck in. We didn't. They're not going to say, you're not allowed. But there was some surprises. I will say that. There were some surprises. I'd have to, so there were some surprises, which I'm going to get to in just a minute. So, what was taking place today, is I had to stop the recording for a little bit and get the stuff, was the Broadcast Meteorology Conference, which I attended. And we had the opening remarks and whatnot, and the welcome and whatnot. But the first thing was the probability of precipitation. That was from Alan Seals, who's at WKRG in Mobile. And this was the interesting thing, because he did a survey, which wasn't the best survey. Could have been done better. I'm not going to get on after him, because it was probably the best that we could do, or anybody could do on the broadcast side or whatnot, without it having to look like a questionnaire and whatnot. But the thing that was interesting to me, and I'd have to start looking for my somewhat notes at this point. I took some, but the probabilities that a lot of people, when he gave some questions about if, for example, it's going to be sunny all day long, and except for a 30-minute period where you're going to get rain, and you're going to get a half an inch. What is your probability of precipitation? Well, surprisingly enough, he asked this to some broadcasters, and he asked this to normal people. Normal people meaning the public. People. But the problem is, in some cases, it may have not just been normal people. It may have been weather geeks, or people that are weather savvy. So that's where the data gets kind of skewed. And surprisingly, he did this for several questions, for a day that was all cloudy with only a little bit of drizzle, and a day where some of the area was going to get a lot of heavy storms and the rest of the area was not. And it's surprising to note that a lot of people, both the normal people and the broadcasters, are fairly close. But maybe it's not quite the same to a certain extent. So there are some differences there. And then when we had the next thing, which was from Mike Rollins and Mark Baden. Mike's at KRTV in Great Falls, and Mark Baden's at WISN in Milwaukee, talking about giving the forecast if the forecast is challenging or unclear. For example, they showed, in their case, with them being Mike in Great Falls and Mark in Milwaukee, snow. And as you know, snow forecasts, especially in the north, are typically problems with how much snow you're going to get. In the south, it's where is it going to snow at all. And just the movement of the little bit, it's a confidence thing. So that's what they discussed there. That was really good. They did a lot of good back and forth on that. So I thought that was very good. I might check in with them. In fact, I might check in with all of them. They may not be on future programs, but we'll do a few questions, because I think what we may do later into the winter time is do a lot of these question and answer type things with a lot of these people. Then we had a thing about television ratings. Well, the first thing that people think about television ratings is severe weather. They're like, oh, severe weather and whatnot. So, but this was from Garrett Lewis, who's at KFSM in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Now, the interesting thing about this was that he had ratings books for severe weather events in Oklahoma City. Surprise. During an event, I can't even remember which one it was, but it was either one of the 2013 events or something like that, where just the three stations, the Channel 5, KOCO, KWTV, and KFOR, had a 64 rating, and I think it was a 64 rating and a 94 share, just those three stations alone. That's better than any Super Bowl and any TV show to get a 94 share on three stations during a severe weather event, which made it sound like, what were the other 6% doing watching television? Which was a bit interesting. And as to that, during severe weather, I think it was that during, for example, versus normal, when there was when it rained, even when it's just rain, ratings tended to be about 12% higher. If there was thunderstorms, maybe severe weather, it was about 20%. If there was tornadoes, it's 25% or more. There's a bit of slight confidence issue on that front. And that was interesting because in our aspect, we have our blog, our website. And it tends to be that the big events tend to be tornado outbreaks or even any sort of severe weather outbreak, especially even wind events tend to be fairly high, strong. Come with views and people coming to the website and Facebook and whatnot and a lot of clicks. Along with floods and winter storms. So in this case, ratings transitioned to us, our group on our weather network thing where I do my stuff. It was connected to page views, and I think that could be the case. You could take ratings to page views on websites, especially on media websites like any of the websites in Oklahoma City, or even in any place that's getting severe weather events at that time. Then they had the changing about the climate change and whatnot, which was interesting to talk about having this. And this is where I did the first thing and I'm going to have to find this because I found they have a new website called Weather Shift where they're talking about, the climate shifting and whatnot and other stuff. So I'm going to be shouting that out probably for the next 6 months, it seems like. And then after that, there was talks about doing some other stuff with models and communication and whatnot, especially in high-impact events. And I'm trying to go through this real fast because I don't want this to be a 6-hour-long video or audio cast. And then we got to the social media part with Amy Sweezy, who's at WESH in Orlando. Now, we had her chief, Tony Manolfi, on the program back earlier this year in January. And this was interesting, dealing with people on social media, broadcasters. Some of this was inside the park, or that broadcasters knew about. But since I'm not a broadcaster, this was almost like looking inside and peeling back to find out what people actually think. And this made me think, this was like eye-opening for me. It gave me second thoughts about a lot of things, but not about the people, just about the way they want to communicate properly. Now, this is more or less about trolls, haters, and know-it-alls, and saying that you don't look good, or you can't talk right, or you don't know what you're doing, stuff like that. It more or less is that if I think that way, and I do in some cases, I keep it to myself. I am not going to blab it to anybody because it's rather stupid. Because if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. But some people don't want to do that. Why? Because they want the attention. And they want to talk to the, quote, celebrity, unquote, a.k.a. the broadcaster. And that's not just in the case with weather people. That's the case with sports people or news people or whatever. And they had a workshop about this where they discussed this. And this is a problem because there's a lot of people, and this is a case with Midwesterners. They all want to talk about their lives. And they feel like that if they're connected to their celebrity weather person or whatever, that they have to share everything. Oh, my husband has this, and oh, my wife did this to me. And they're here to discuss the weather. They're not wanting to hear about your problems. Even though, I mean, and I think there's a line, and some people don't know where that line is. And, well, it is interesting. Now, then came, this is what I really liked. After lunch, we had Mike Mogul. He was from How the Weather Works. He lives in Naples. He went crazy, and it was funny. When he started talking about that, I wish I could remember what he said, but it was probably the funniest thing ever that I cannot remember now. Oh, wait a minute. Now I don't even remember who actually said this, but this is... Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm confused. I'm reading through some of my notes, and they're all messed up. This was one of the best lines that I could remember. This was back to the social media thing, so I might... Half of this I have forgotten already, but it was very good. That silence is the best response to a fool. That was the best line I ever... That was one of the best lines. I also saw... This goes back to social media. I'm sorry, I'm like just ranting on about this. There was about... They had people show hands about how many people outside... on the outside had access to their fan page, the Mets fan page. Meaning the broadcast Mets that are in the room, how many people had outside access, meaning their passwords and whatnot, to their page. And about 20% did. That 20% had their fan pages accessed by other people. And there was a few people that actually had said that I heard them that said, isn't that illegal? And that's very suspicious because I was a bit surprised about that. So, but back to Mike Mogul. He started going nuts about stuff that I cannot remember now. So I'm already forgetting a lot of stuff. It was good stuff, but... And I'm still going through all my... Oh yeah, this was during the part when I wasn't doing any notes. The first afternoon session, I didn't have my notes with me. But that was really good, though. And Ryan Phillips, who's at WTVJ in Miami, talked about Miami not having a hurricane for 10 years. The last one was Wilma in 2005, and they haven't had one since. Jordan Girth did a thing about Gozar, which is being launched next October of 2016. It was supposed to be in March, but it got delayed, so it's going to be then. So we're going to have that. Then they did the simplification for the National Weather Service, which they're still going around with that and whatnot. And I'm going through this book. And then Rick Smith had the... we gotta get this. This was one of the funniest. Rick Smith talked about the tornadoes in Moore. The one they got right, 2013, and the one that they didn't quite do right. It's not their fault, and that's this year's. And the funniest thing was when they started reading the tweets. This was one of the best things. The mean tweets that were sent to Weather Service Norman after the 2015 event where the tornado warnings were a little late. And it's on Periscope. I know Nate Johnson, who's here, tweeted out it onto Periscope. So it's on Periscope. So if anybody wants to watch it, you need to go watch it, because that is funny. Everybody in the room loved it because that was funny. And right after that was a thing talking about said tornado, March 25th from 2015, which was the Moore tornado in 2015, also known as the Sand Springs tornado, which is the one that hit west of Tulsa as well. And then after that, the color conundrum. This is from Lynette Grant, who's at Valparaiso. She's a senior there. And I'm going to try to get her on future Polygon, because this is interesting, because she talked about the color problem, about how many colors can you use for a watch or warning on television. For example, and I took detailed notes for this one. Well, I'm looking at my computer like I'm showing video, and I'm not. Whereas I counted just on this, and she didn't even see them all, because I can already tell you I saw more colors than this, and from things. These are just the colors that she saw. I could even name more than this. For tornado watches, these are what are used, that she showed. These colors: red, yellow, green, and purple. Purple? What the heck does that mean? She said purple means cool and calm and collected. Purple in Iowa means winter storm is coming. It means it's going to snow, not tornado. So already I could see this was getting fun. Tornado warnings mainly all red. But I can already tell you I already know of one that's not. So, and we haven't gotten to the fun ones yet. You want to get to this? This is what I found. For thunderstorm warnings, be prepared for this. These are the colors that she found. Yellow, blue, which is what the Weather Service uses on their polygons that they issue through Twitter. Orange, which is what they use on the Weather Service website. Red, I have never seen a severe thunderstorm warning in red. And white. White? A station in North Dakota uses white. White means snow, not severe weather. Unless they mean white means hail. I don't know what winter storm watch or winter storm anything means. Is that green or something? And then there's thunderstorm watches. Get ready for this. There's blue, yellow, light blue, and this is what she said, pale violet red, which is what the Weather Service uses, also known as the maroonish lavendery mauve color. And the first thing I thought of is, oh my God, there's too many colors and it's so messed up, and ugh. So that was interesting. And then they talked about doing past events for behavior during severe storms. That was from Mark Fox at the Weather Service in Dallas. And then came the SPC part, the Greg Carbon, talking about the 5-category risk system for severe weather, which I found to be very interesting. And then came the fun part, the severe weather workshop. I absolutely loved this part. This was the best part. And I'm going to show... this is the part of the workshop that we did. These are the 4 cases that we decided to do. This was using the supercell composite of 4 different severe weather events. Case 1 on the top left, top right, bottom left, and bottom right. Now, of course, I started doodling and doing some stuff, and of course, unfortunately, I'm already messing up what I did. So, first thing what I did was I decided to play guessing game on these. On the top left, I decided to start playing guessing game while Greg Carbon was doing this. I thought the top left looked like Plainfield 1990. It wasn't. But I wasn't far off. It was a summertime event. It was the day of the Roanoke, Illinois tornado in July of '04. Okay, top right. I immediately knew what this one was. It was the 1985 tornado outbreak in Pennsylvania and Ohio, and I was correct. And I was like, yay, I got one right. Okay, the one on the bottom left was surprising. This one, the bottom left, case 3, and I've already labeled what all of these were. I thought, wow, severe weather. First thing I thought of was, it was going to be one of those events in the western Oklahoma, Texas Panhandle. And I was like, oh, it's going to be one of those nasty days. So I started outlining that was an area. And a lot of the weather people, broadcasters, were getting involved because it was interactive, where they were talking about that and whatnot. And that one was the one that was really fooling, because the case 3 was June 3rd, 1980. Now, first people would think 1980 was a drought year. So unfortunately, all that stuff that occurred in Oklahoma and Texas, nothing happened. So the first thing you're like is June 3rd, 1980. What happened that day? That was the day known as Night of the Twisters, which is a book by Ivy Ruckman about tornadoes in Grand Island, Nebraska on that night in 1980. And it was the only place, Nebraska was the only place that got severe weather that night. Nowhere else. That was interesting, given the fact the best parameters were further away. And that surprised me. Now, case 4. At first I thought it might have been May 3rd, 99, but it was too far east. And then I thought it may have been an event that occurred in Oklahoma, but I wasn't sure which one, and I was pretty close to being right. It was, as if some of you may be able to read on the top right, it was the Andover, Kansas tornado outbreak, April 26, 1991, of which we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of that next April. So, but there was numerous tornadoes from Oklahoma all the way up into Iowa that day. So, that was an interesting event, to say the least. And this was, I absolutely love these interactive things. These are so cool. I wish I had been able to just go up on stage and start just saying off what they were, and I probably would have gotten in trouble, and all the broadcasters would have been like mad at me or something, but I didn't want to do it. But yes, I absolutely love this. Except for the fact that Greg Carpenter kept asking Jim Cantori what to say, what he wanted, which was a bit funny, because I absolutely adored that part, because he kept saying, Jim, what would Jim do? So Greg Carpenter and we'll hear from Greg again later, his top events of the year. So we'll get off of this and go toward what we did, because that was the last thing that occurred, was the workshop that day. So, but speaking about tomorrow we'll go into the general sessions. We have Louis Ussolini, who is the assistant administrator for NOAA. He's also the director of the Weather Service. Will be the keynote address at 8:30. We have some other people. Chuck Doswell is expected to do a talk, as is Harold Brooks. And some other people are going to be on. Jordan Girth is going to be back to talk more about the GOES-R. He'll be talking about Part 2, for those that may have not seen Part 1. So then, unfortunately, you're going to talk about that some more. Talking about what's going to happen after dual pole is going to be discussed tomorrow as well. And we'll have some other stuff as well later into tomorrow afternoon, so we'll have some interesting stuff about that as well. Several posters as well, so if anybody is happening to listen to this or whatever, they can get a hold of me, as they always can, on Twitter at IowaWX. That's IOWAWX. You can also get a hold of Henry, because Henry's live tweeting most of this stuff at Henry C. Luker _WX. He's live tweeting a lot of this stuff of the meetings while I'm pretty much taking notes and whatnot, and mainly for the fact that I might be the only person at this meeting that doesn't have a smartphone. Mainly because I have to pick and choose what I'm spending my money on, and a smartphone right now is not the smartest thing to have, but at this point, from what I gather, I better get one as quickly as possible, or I'm going to end up being 10 years behind. So that's what I have about that. But anyway, tomorrow night is the icebreaker. So if I do an episode tomorrow, it's probably going to be done. I might end up doing this. I might end up taking my computer to the icebreaker, which would be interesting. Now Henry's not going to be going to that, but as from what he told me, he's not going. But we'll do that then. So that's all I have for right now. I know these are short episodes, but I'm not going to make these long episodes, especially when we're kind of in a bit of a thing. But that's what happened today. Weather's been fine. I saw a bunch of people. They were all kind of crowded. Now, there was some interesting other stuff, but that is a personal, well, actually a private matter that occurred during the meeting today, so we're not going to discuss that. But some people around have probably heard about it. So anyway, that's all I have for this one. So you can get a hold of me. Email at iowawx@gmail.com. Twitter at iowawx. And follow Henry's Twitter account for any live tweets and whatnot from his opinion and whatnot. My opinion, you're going to hear about it as you were hearing it right now. My opinions are coming out in these Polygon episodes. So thank you for tuning in, and hope you'll tune in for the rest of this series. We'll be doing this every night except Thursday night, because we'll do a recap Friday night of everything we've learned so far during this meeting. So thank you for listening this week, and I'll hope to hear some of your comments and whatnot, and I'll be back for the next episode.